Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/IDontWorkHereLady, where an ungrateful Karen has a meltdown after people let her take shelter from a severe storm. So thanks for tuning in today, and let's get right into today's stories. And also, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more content like this. Someone thought I was a charity worker, then tried to have me arrested. I ran a charitable event for my work around this time last year. We usually put on a carnival to raise money for charity and raise awareness for our company, establish ourselves in the community, and attract customers, but all the money goes to charity. So I stood up at the carnival and gave a big speech about the importance of the charity and how the cause was personal to me and my family. It funded cerebral palsy research that particular year, and my father lives with it. I was very visible throughout the whole event, sharing my story, raising money, and running carnival booths, etc. Fast forward to a couple months ago. I bumped into someone while in line to get coffee who said they'd met me at the event last year. We ended up starting a pleasant conversation, so we sat outside to drink our coffees together. In hindsight, she seemed a little off, a little tightly wound, but it didn't register over such a brief encounter. She mentioned how she had been so glad to see a large-scale cerebral palsy charity event and hadn't seen us do any events since. I had started to explain the yearly nature of the carnival and how we picked different charities, but she unintentionally cut me off, caught up in her own emotions as she began to recount a moving story about a sibling who suffered from the condition. I was telling her how terrible that was and how I completely understood, in reference to my own experiences. Before I could really get into talking about my own story, she checked the clock and said she didn't realize how much time had passed and she needed to go, but she appreciated the work I did and my support listening to her, etc. She began fumbling in her purse for her keys. Then, as she was leaving, she said, "And here's a little something to support your work," producing something folded in a napkin from her purse and leaving it at my side. I'm an interior designer, so I had no idea what she could be talking about in terms of supporting my work, but we were seated just by the street parking, so she was gone too quickly for me to ask. I unfolded the napkin, and to my shock, she had slipped $100 into the napkin. I was dumbfounded with confusion as to why this perfect stranger would give me any money to support my work in commercial interior design without getting anything designed in exchange. It took me a while to figure it out, but I eventually realized she must have come to the carnival and assumed the charity itself had put on the event, so she thought I worked for them, not an interior design firm. It took me 10 to 15 minutes to realize, so it was far too late to try and catch up to her, and all we'd exchanged were first names. I didn't even know where she worked. So without any hopes of tracking her down, I figured the best thing to do would be to just donate the money to charity. I did, and that was that. Fast forward to last month. Somehow or another, this woman came to realize I don't work for the charity, but am in fact in the for-profit sector. I think it is because I was featured in an online ad the firm's been running. She left a message on my work phone, half angry, half embarrassed, saying she was willing to forego holding me accountable if I paid her back in full. Problem is, I didn't have the money anymore. I donated it. I explained this to her, but she wanted proof. I left her a message since she didn't pick up when I called, explaining the company ran a carnival event to raise money for the charity, but that we aren't the charity ourselves, and that I absolutely did donate her money to the charity so she could rest assured. I didn't hear anything back for about 3 days. On the 4th day after I left the message, the police showed up to our firm's headquarters. We're almost all working remotely because of COVID, so they unduly terrified our teenage receptionist. I was also scared half to death because I had to have a serious meeting with my boss, in which she asked if I had misrepresented myself as a charitable worker and collected donations in a personal capacity because of the claims this woman made to our business. When I explained, my boss blew her off, and that's when she got the police involved. This woman called and said we were masquerading as a charity, scamming people out of money. So the police came to confirm we were operating a legitimate business. They saw nothing out of the ordinary, obviously, and that was that. Or so we thought. Fast forward to a week later, my boss got a letter from a lawyer. I don't know exactly what it said, but it accused us of scamming this woman and demanding her money be returned. I wish I could have just provided proof of the donation, but I have thousands of emails. I delete most of them, and I could not for the life of me find the confirmation email that reflected my donation. So instead, my boss made another $100 donation to the charity and took a screenshot and sent it to the lawyer. We haven't heard from the lawyer since, so I don't think she was wild about representing this woman in the first place. We have still gotten a couple wild phone calls from the woman, saying since the date on the $100 donation is so recent, it means we still had the money and we should have returned it to her when she asked. Why, if she wanted to donate it to charity anyways? Anyways, my boss explaining we donated it the first time, and this was a second donation to assuage her concerns has not helped. Eventually, we just blocked her number. Worst part is, due to COVID, we aren't having a carnival this year, so she'll be even more convinced we were making the whole thing up. Now, I personally don't really feel like anyone's the bad guy in this situation. It seems like mostly just a big miscommunication and misunderstanding, and just a big mess all around. I'm sure this could have all been avoided if she wasn't in a big rush to get going at the start of the story, and OP had a chance to properly explain themselves. But again, I don't really necessarily think it's her fault, she was just trying to do a good thing, and as a result of that, she felt like she got scammed, which would make anyone mad. Hurricane Karen attacks, saga of the Great Ice Storm of 1998. So this happened a long time ago, more than 2 decades as you can see by the title, but it still sticks in my memory, even among the many crazy things that happened that night and that week even. Not everyone had cell phones yet, though lots of people did. This will matter later. The storm was quite intense. It was alternating between heavy rain and freezing rain, very intense wind, not quite a hurricane but strong enough that it was breaking off small branches. It was dark, full dark. The storm was completely blocking out the light of day. The clouds were thick and deep. They must have been thousands of feet thick to be that dark. Massive cumulonimbus, totally full. The storm had lost some of its speed since it had hit the coast, but none of its fury. Power lines started going down, then even some of the poles. I had been visiting my parents at their home. My little sister was also visiting from college, as was my little brother. They had time off, and I was able to just not make any contracts that month so I could go out there. Anyway, it's my adult family. After we had all made amends with my dad, who had stopped drinking all the time, and had apologized to us for the past. I was cooking on the antique wood-burning stove with my mom for dinner. When it happened, someone driving down the street, we could hear them even through the sound of the storm when they came around the corner and lost control on the sheer ice. They were lucky they got caught by trees and the snowbank, because the river is right there. Even though it was frozen, it runs fast, so the ice never gets as thick as some places. A car could pierce right through it. My family springs into action. We know they're gonna need help getting out of the snowbank at the very least. First aid at worst. Dad grabs the first aid backpack from the wall in the kitchen where he keeps it, beside a full-size fire extinguisher. He was a logging camp medic at one time, early in his foolish youth, so he had dealt with very serious, life-threatening injuries in the past. We all run to get into our heavy snow gear, then put rain gear over top. Also the heavy boots for Arctic expeditions. We all put on our ice climbing gear. This is taking too long. We grab storm lights, halogen ones, for the deep dark. On the way out, we grab shovels, pylons, and flares out of the back of the car, then run out of the garage. My little sister takes snowshoes and heads to get the neighbors. There could be more cars. This is the only road if you're going deeper into the countryside in this direction. Then we slide down the toboggan run we have between our home and the cottage my parents own just below the home on the hill. This takes us from just the other side of our driveway, all the way down to the ditch beside the road where the car crashed. We greet the people who have crashed. It's a family of 4. We check if anyone is hurt. They're fine, just a little shaken and scared. The car is stuck, and they don't have anything to get it unstuck. While my mom is talking to them, I have already started shoveling. My brother beside me is shoveling too. Good solid shovels, spade-shaped and large, specifically for snow shoveling. There is already a crust of ice on everything. My dad starts setting up pylons, weighing them down with the dirt, sand, snow, gravel mixture off the side of the road. Then the next car comes. It's the hour that commuters would be coming home now. I would have thought they would have stayed home. We knew the storm was coming. But no, lots of people decided to go out. We dodge out of the way, climbing up and away from the out-of-control full-size sedan. It careens straight into the first car. Luckily, my mom had already got the family to get out of the car. This wouldn't be the first year we had a pileup, and it wouldn't likely be the last. The corner was killer, right at the bottom of a long hill and another corner in the opposite direction, so you can't see it coming. There are signs, but people ignore them, especially overconfident locals who take the corner at speed. Today though, the ice was clear, it was getting thicker. People were gonna keep crashing here. My dad and I started helping them out of the car. These people were strangers again. Didn't matter for our reaction though. This family was actually hurt, but it wasn't too bad. The size of their vehicle had somewhat protected them. Big boat of a thing. Only the wife had an injury that really needed attention. She had smashed her head against the window. It was bleeding, so my dad rushed to help her, pulling gauze pads and surgical tape from the first aid pack. At this point, my sister arrived with the 2 sets of neighbors. The others weren't home, she said. Except Deer, he's getting salt. They had shovels and flashlights, but just digging wasn't going to be enough anymore. One neighbor, let's call him D, had a cell phone and called 911. I didn't hear any of their conversation. We were getting the family up the hill a bit, to our cottage. My mom started making a fire in the wood stove, an old cook stove. The power was already out at this point, so there was candles and wood stoves, or gas only. Anyway, my mom and dad have started laying out the injured, as cars keep arriving every few minutes and crashing. Even though we have set up road flares way up the road and cones, there was no chance we were just getting people unstuck at this point. We were just getting the injured as good of treatment we can until the actual paramedics can arrive. The problem is, they're swamped. It's a small municipality. There is a hospital and it does have ambulances, but only 3, and they're already on calls. They'll get to us as soon as they can. But the highway further up the way from us has already claimed lives. Holy crap, this storm has already killed people. There are now a lot of people. I never did get a good count of how many. Neighbors from further away have come out to see what they can do to help. This is Canada. We help each other out in the winter, or everyone would just die. I was helping our latest impromptu guests into the cottage. It was getting really full in here. We were gonna have to start bringing people up the hill to our home soon. Then it happens. Hurricane Karen. In her defense, she was no doubt under stress. We all were. We had invited her inside just like we had with others. The little cottage was very full of people, so not everyone had somewhere to sit. All the beds were being used by actually injured people. A few people had been seriously hurt in their crashes. Thankfully, the coroner hadn't claimed anyone's life yet. Hurricane Karen walked up to D, who was on the cell phone with CAA, coordinating all the members who were here and needed towing, passing it to the other people when they needed to give their info and confirm it was them. The dispatcher was very understanding that we would need several tow trucks, and promised we were in the queue, is what we were told by D. Then Karen says, "Give me that phone, I need it." No one knew who Karen was. At this point, a few of the families and random people who had crashed were actually people we knew. She didn't even give him a moment to answer. She grabbed for it. "Give it to me. You're giving it to everyone. Give it to me." At this point, it's already an adult temper tantrum. She went right to 11 in 0.5 seconds. And D says to her, "Whoa there, lady, calm down. I'm talking to CAA to get tow trucks here to help everyone. Do you have it? The more members there are here, the better for getting them here faster, I'd think." Karen sees I have arrived back. She turns to me, pointing her finger in my face. You work here. You make him give it to me." "What? Lady, I don't work here. He's trying to get help here for everyone. Please calm down, there's no reason to yell. I'm sure he can lend you the phone when he's done with the emergency people. Look, there are a lot of cars piled up and people are hurt. Stop." The whole time I was talking, she kept trying to interrupt me. My dad came out from the bedroom area at this point. He had blood all over his clothes. He looked super tense. Karen wasn't done. "F you. Do you know how important I am? I'm the redacted local political person from a neighboring municipality. I'll have you fired." "Lady, are you serious? We helped you out of your car and brought you into our home, and you're behaving like this? You can't treat me like this. My battery is dead. I have to call my son." "Calm down. You can call your son when D is done." I'm fully shouting at this point, just like her. "I'll get you fired. Get me your manager." Deadpan, I say. "You can't fire me. Just stop. I don't have a manager or even a boss. You have to give it to me." My dad interrupting her, full rage, shouting. He has anger problems even still, even without being drunk. "Nothing. We will give you nothing if you don't stop this right now. I brought you into my home. Be cool or you're going back into the effing storm. Is that what you want?" I would like to say my dad is normally a nice guy, but he's autistic somewhat, like me. High functioning, but with social interaction turned down significantly. He wasn't kidding. He was fully about to kick her back into the storm. My dad just turned around and walked back to the people who were hurt. His anger was implacable. It was probably almost as scary to Karen as the storm. Though thinking about it in retrospect, the fact that he was covered in blood was probably why she didn't say anything else. She just sat down and shut up. The storm was by this time raging even more intensely than it had been. Trees had been coming down extensively. No one wanted to be out there. Not even spoiled Karen. She got her turn to use the phone eventually. Unfortunately for her, one of the other people in the cottage had been one of her constituents. Karen lost her job. No one died under our watch that night. The road was closed, not only because of the coroner, but because lots of trees had fallen in the road up the hill. Everyone eventually got towed. Some people went to the hospital. By the next day, power was out across the eastern seaboard, more than 1,000 miles north and south of us. It took weeks to recover. More than 100,000 car accidents in just one night, 26 dead, countless people newly homeless. It was the biggest disaster I lived through. Alright, that was a hell of a journey. I hope you all enjoyed today's episode. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more. And as always, my friends, stay safe, stay awesome, and I'll see you all later.